two teams really get on out front, and everyone has to get on with it because, as you said, it's just an hour here, and then we're into the hustle of a sprint quali later.
Looking at the Constructors' Championship on the left-hand side, Mercedes ahead of Ferrari. You are looking at Lewis Hamilton, 110 points for Ferrari. McLaren turning the page. Very strong Grand Prix last time out. In contention for victory for the first time in a Grand Prix this season. They did win the sprint. Then it's Red Bull, Alpine, Haas, Racing Bulls. And the other 2-point scorers are Williams and Audi, Aston Martin and Cadillac, searching for their first top 10 or top 8 in the sprint finish of 2026. We have a minute to go until we'll put a green light at the end of the pit lane. Air temperature is 15 degrees, track temperature is 37 degrees for you. We are coming up to 12:30 local time on a bright but slightly chilly day, depending if you're on the back row of that grandstand. I think you might need...
Welcome everybody. Enjoy this live stream, and we're going to be right back. We're just finishing up, setting up
around this circuit once again, which is a storied one in Formula One history. In fact, if you look at the venues that have hosted more races than this place, there aren't many. You've got Spa, you've got Silverstone, you've got Monte Carlo, and you've got Monza. Fifth all time on the World Championship list is Montreal. Let's get the party started down in the pit lane and check in with Ruth Buscombe. Hi, Ruth.
Yes, down in a very loud, busy pit lane with cars already queuing up behind us to get out on the green light, including the Haas car, which of the midfield is the largest upgrade package of the entire field. I spoke to Ollie Behrman. He was very excited to hit the track here in FP1 and see what they've managed to find. Behind the Haas car, you can see that McLaren pit wall. Again, they went for that two-pronged approach, brought half the upgrades into Canada. As Oscar Piastri is being placed onto the ground, his number one mechanic stepping out. They're going to try and...
So guys, before we start off, they're on their warm-up lap, obviously, in practice one. Now, just to let you know, welcome to the live stream. We're starting these live streams now for every single round of the 2026 season for the rest of the year. Now, guaranteed 100%, we will be on live streaming for every Saturday and every Sunday. So if you're out and about, you can't actually watch it on TV, well, you can join the YouTube live stream. Now, obviously, we can't show you footage because we'll be kicked off YouTube straight away. But we've got the telemetry and commentary. And, of course, I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to be jumping in and trying to steal the limelight and just, you know, speaking and taking all the attention. I'm not like that, all right? Because I know that's very, very frustrating for a lot of people when they watch a stream, okay? So I will jump in, of course, but times when it's quiet. In other words, just like now, as in they're on their warm-up lap, nothing's happening yet, it's only practice one. So yeah, we will be on live stream, and hope you enjoy the telemetry. Now, for every round for the rest of the year, we will, like I said, we'll be on every Saturday and Sunday. Fridays, 95% we will be on. However, assume that we are, but I would just double check in my channel. So if you just go to my channel, click on live, and then you'll see, as you know, I'm sure a lot of you know already, you'll always see that waiting, and you can click the notify me, and you'll know if something, because I'll schedule the Friday sessions well in advance on the Friday, so you'll know that he's going to be online. But definitely Saturday and Sunday. Anyway, back to the stream. Enjoy.
Weren't they last year? They were the form team Mercedes in a year where they didn't have too many races where they were super competitive. They delivered the win with George, and it was one of those races where they would say cooler temperatures, we come alive, and that has been the case in recent years. They're obviously the title favourites heavily this year. It will be interesting to see if they become more competitive once again in the cooler temperatures in a whole new generation of Formula One, as Stroll brings it back to the pits in the Aston Martin early on. It's been a great stronghold for George Russell, and it's George particularly, I think, that's maybe feeling a little bit of pressure for the first time this year. 2 poles on the bounce here, win last year, Kimi as well getting his first podium with third, but you've got now Antonelli on the back of 3 successive Grand Prix wins. Russell was able to say, don't worry about it. He was always good in Miami last year, but that excuse won't wash here because this is a Russell stronghold, so he has to show that class.
Yeah, George Russell has always been very strong around here. If you consider that his pole position in 2024 was when Lewis Hamilton was his teammate. Hamilton with a wonderful Montreal record as well. A lot of movement on the rear of Oscar Piastri. It is very dusty out there, and that is warning lights on the wing mirrors for Franco Colapinto, who is trailing back, or at least trying to trail back to the pits. So Colapinto reporting that his throttle isn't working, and he's trying to crawl back in basically a safe mode, isn't he? Having gone on that long straight. Very dusty on the racing line. Cars out there on the circuit cleaning up the surface, and the Argentine driver is, well, crawling back to his team.
Yeah, he's got some revs, I think, but no propulsion there. So a transmission issue potentially there for Franco. He's going to get back in, I think, just about, so Alpine could go and retrieve him from the pit entry. Let's hear it. Okay, so he's actually at this stage got gear shifts and no revs. So as he said, a throttle issue. I thought when we jumped on board we had revs but no propulsion. So maybe more of a drive shaft issue. But anyway, the Alpine team can push him down. So he's just got far enough to save his weekend. At this point, is that critical? You've got the only practice session. It might be not savable depending on what's failed there on Franco's car. Franco, who did so well last time out as well, and is just growing in confidence, needs some laps, and thankfully for him and the team, they've managed to get that car in. He can be pushed at the garage, they can get him up on some high stands and see what's going on.
If you're one of our newer viewers, you must pass the pit lane entry line, the control line, how they refer to it, before your team can recover the car. So if he'd broken down and stopped by the entrance, the team could not have gone and got the car, but he went past the control line, so the team can go down to Cadillac and they can rescue their second car. But as you say, Franco Colapinto, breakthrough weekend last time that we ran a Grand Prix, career 7th best in Miami and a joint best qualifying performance as the world champion explores the runoff. He won't be the last to do that at the final chicane.
No. That's the one you can really start to attack from the first laps there, because you've got that bit of runoff to cut through and rejoin and live to fight another day. You haven't got that chance around a lot of other corners on this circuit, so it's the one to test your braking capability early on. Yeah, for Colapinto, it's 4.4 kilometres this lap, and there was probably about 500 metres where he could cruise back to the pits. Anywhere else he has that issue, and he's parked up for the session. So there's a really big reprieve as Verstappen. He's using the grass already.
Yeah, you sometimes see that is an unusual racing line for a man who was having fun on the grass at the Nordschleife last weekend, and he's using a bit of it here in Montreal. And that was Lando Norris going over the final chicane and rejoining. A little bit of a lock-up for him.
Yeah, I think it's just the dusty nature of the circuit still. I know we've had some on-track action, but there's still parts that you can see as Lewis goes wide at the apex at the hairpin there. As soon as you get off the racing line, then you just pick up dust, dirt on your tyres, and you lose the optimum grip that you need. So Norris finding that with an outside lock-up at this corner. Hamilton's through cleanly, but he's also managed to pick up a load of dust out of the hairpin and lost heaps of time. Verstappen, of course, brought his own dust onto the track there, just using all of the track coming out of turn 7. But I don't think that really would have cost him too much.
Here's Max Verstappen completing his lap. A little bit of wiggle as he goes past the famous wall of champions, and he cuts the beam to go 9/10 quicker than anyone so far. Early laps, though, as Lawson goes into third. Let's head to Ruth in the pit lane.
Down here at the garage of Franco Colapinto, where there is not much movement around the car, which is a good sign, because it means that actually the engineers on the bank in the island in the middle are technically the thing. His number one mechanic, Brian, here, not doing a lot, which is generally a good sign if you're a driver. So what happened? There was a throttle issue. Luckily, when it happened, meant they were able to push the car back in. But even if they're able to effectively power cycle the car, which is a fancy engineer term for turn it on, turn it off again, they're still missing data that could impact both cars. In Miami, Franco was running the old rear wing, Pierre was running the new rear wing, This week, they're both going to be on the same spec by the time they get to sprint qualifying this afternoon. But they've come out and said that in this free practice one session, both cars are running slightly different floor specifications as a back-to-back for data collection. Teams do this all the time to be able to correlate and sign it off. So, fingers crossed, both for Franco Colapinto and for the whole Alpine team, that they'll be able to sign it off, go out and try again, get out of the pit lane and start collecting data so that they can carry on the good work that this side of the garage started by collecting some points up in Miami.
Thank you, Ruth. Liam Lawson has come to a halt at the side of the racetrack, and he has lost power steering, and now he says he's stuck in gear, is the message that he's given the team on the radio. Jolene, this is a critical practice session, and for Liam Lawson, who is having a decent season, he's got an issue, and he is out. He's lost the practice session for the weekend.
Yeah, it sounds like a classic hydraulic issue then. The hydraulics control your power steering and your gear shifting and a load of other components working on the car, and if you lose that hydraulic pressure, you suddenly lose a lot of function, and Lawson's done that, and he's lost the rest of the session. This is what it sounds like then. So going down the gears and finding a rear lock as well. And you feel this coming, you feel the first symptoms of it, and then that's probably into turn one. And again, if that was somewhere else, you might be able to box, but that's the worst part on the circuit there for Lawson, because then he's got to go 4 kilometres to get back to the pit lane entry. And so he's felt the power steering go, and then it's obviously looks like a pretty quick leak then, if it's then stopped just halfway around the lap. So this is exactly what we're talking about with Colapinto. Back in the garage with Alpine, they've got a chance to troubleshoot the car and get him back out, but Lawson is going to be then the driver that's left a bit stuck, and he's running in fourth. He was having an all right run at the start of this, but that is all he's going to get before sprint quali.
Down in the garage, Jos Verstappen watching on, supporting his son. Driver who's on the podium in the 90s, and these were alterations being made to the Red Bull that was put on the front row of the last Grand Prix. A return to the front row for Ford power in Formula One, and a new front assembly for Max Verstappen, who is back out there and has the fastest car. As it stands, ahead of teammate Isaac Hadjar, then it's Piastri in third.
Max, initial impressions on downshifts, please.
They feel better, just pushing a little bit, especially in the lower gears, but the locking is much better.
Okay, understood, thank you.
New front wing for Red Bull this weekend, so they brought a raft of upgrades to Miami. It transformed Max and their lives in 2026.
Okay, lads, so nothing to like when you get to practice one, the cool thing for us when we're watching practice one, if there's a sprint race on, is that they've got to be on it instantly. I mean, when you go to a normal Grand Prix, you've got what, 2-3 qualifying sessions or practice sessions, three practice sessions, but then they can take their time to shake the car down nice and relaxed in practice one, and then build it up in practice two, build it up in practice three. But then at this type of weekend, which is great, they've got to be on it from not in the first few laps, but they've got 1 hour now, and we're already at 12 minutes in to practice one. And tonight at 9:30, they're going straight into sprint qualifying. So they've got to be on it by really by the second half of this hour. After 30 minutes, quick shakedown, in we go. Test what they're going to be trying to do here is they're going to have to almost like sprint here, where they're going to shake it down for maybe 2-3 laps. Then they're going to go into, right lads, let's try a qualifying lap for the sprint. Then they'll try another one for the sprint races. Then I'd try just a slightly opposite setup and try and find a difference, because they're going to have to do like a drastic comparison from here to the other end, because then you'll really get to know if the car is going to do well with setup wise, right? This is how I performed, and everybody else, well, I presume everybody else did as well. So you have to go from really one opposite end of the spectrum to the right dramatic opposite end of the spectrum. So they're going to have to, right, this is what we think we're going to use for sprint qualifying, let's go with this, then go another lap drastically the other way. They'll have, okay, this is the middle ground. Then they'll go from that middle ground and tweak it either left or right, and then that's where they'll find their comfort zone, let's call it. Now, they could have a situation where they go out for that first fast lap, and all of a sudden they nail it, right? So what they'll do is they'll save all that data and the settings. They'll say, okay, guys, this is our benchmark. We're quickest, we're second quickest, we're doing well. Then they'll try something drastic anyway, because you never know. Right? But they'll always have that fallback status to go back to. Anyway, guys on YouTube, let me go back to the commentary here for you.
You'll see not so often, that is your super clipping. So that is actually, you're running the MG UK against the ice to aggressively recharge. Something we don't see so much, but might be right at the end of a straight. You might see a little bit of that.
It's just been trialled, and then they will get the driver feedback, whether it worked, whether they can, for example, tell the difference between blue and purple whilst doing an enormous amount of speed, which was the first thing that I thought.
Yeah, and you're also coming from some distance back as well. I mean, if you're right on the gearbox of someone and that happens, you're just going to be avoiding action. You're not looking at the colour, are you? So it's someone that's a second ahead of you, or give or take that distance. And so, yeah, it's something the drivers have requested, though, because they want to be aware of when a driver's going to be slowing down around them. And it's something that's preset a lot of the time. You run out of juice, or you're into, that's where your software's saying you're going to be derating, it's called, as you start to lose the power. So it's just the drivers then understanding what's going to happen, so they're not caught by surprise with it.
We are resuming in 1 minute and 2 seconds, and that message from race control. There is Oscar Piastri raring to get back out there, and he is parked up, ready to go, visor open.
So looks like what would happen if you put George Russell in a McLaren, doesn't it, with the helmet swap?
Everyone is always coming with a new design.
It's the days of DC borrowing Michael Schumacher's helmet, isn't it?
Weirdly, I knew you were going to bring that up. It's very, very strange. Yeah, very, very odd occurrence. If we saw someone entirely in someone else's colours, very, very odd indeed. Ollie Behrman's not got a representative time on the board either so far.
The blue match is uncanny, though, isn't it, for Oscar?
We'll have a look in a minute.
Wait, can we have a back-to-back?
a side split of Russell and Oscar Piastri. And we are just waiting. Yeah, there you go. Talking a little bit about the driver market. Yesterday in weekend warm-up, Lewis Hamilton getting the answer out there, going, well, a lot of people trying to retire me, I'm going nowhere. And felt like he'd been definitely waiting to say that in the couple of weeks that we'd had. Max Verstappen making positive noises about potential changes for next year, and the fact that he wants to continue, which is great news. He wants as many champions as possible on the grid. And then Esteban Ocon was very punchy, but not as punchy as his team principal. Komatsu was fuming with the driver change story that was nonsense.
It beggars belief sometimes, some articles that you read, and it's based on absolute nothingness, and then someone writes it, and then all the rest of the random web pages start to think that that's the story, and then it sort of perpetuates through the motorsport world. Esteban Ocon might lose his seat mid-season, based on what Komatsu and Ocon have absolutely shut down as nonsense. But that's the state of the world, isn't it? Someone writes something, everyone talks about what's been written, whether it's true or false. Fake news.
And we've got a message that I've got to say, I'm not sure I've seen this one for a while. Free practice 1 will be extended by 4 minutes. So try and...
Okay, guys on YouTube. So just to let you know, if you're not looking at the screen, at the moment it's only 17 minutes into practice 1, so that's nothing. But still, Verstappen and Hadjar are 1 and 2. Piastri 3rd, Lawson in 4th, Antonelli 5th, Sainz in 6th, Russell 7th, Albon 8th, Leclerc 9th, and Hamilton in 10th. So we'll go right back to it.
There's a chapeau, a definite hats off for the way that he actually managed to get the car back into the pit lane. So you correctly isolated that it was a throttle by wire issue. So he had transmission connection and he had the engine rolling it idle. What it sounds like he's done is just pulled the clutch paddle in and let it out again repeatedly to just keep the car's momentum moving forward, and done that enough time, basically bashed the clutch in and out enough times to get him in to the pit lane. So impressive stuff for him there. Other tales of the tape for the first few minutes of free practice from the onboards of the cars. Kimi Antonelli's first practice start with his new clutch paddle went quite well. He'll have a few more of those to do throughout the weekend to absolutely nail that. And just a heads up that you're absolutely correct. From watching the F1 Academy sessions and the F2 sessions earlier on through the weekend, the circuit is grubby. The last laps of those sessions were the fastest throughout, so expect the racetrack to come to them. And I'll drop you off with Alex Albon just about to finish a lap. Was that long enough?
That was perfectly done, Alex Brundle. Thank you very much.
10 out of 10 for using grubby on air.
And we go on board with George Russell, a winner around here last year, one of 2 wins he had across the season. The assignment has changed. It's gone from sporadic wins and taking your chance when you're on pole position to an expectation of being in the fight every single time that we turn up to a racetrack in Formula One. He logs a time that's good enough for 5th. It is hardly representative on the hard tyre at the moment, though. And a reminder for you, we've got a bonus 4 minutes of practice time due to the fact that we had the red flag, due to the fact this is the only practice session for the weekend. We are sprint qualifying later on. And that is to set the grid for a race that pays points in the World Championship as well. Visor cam with Oscar Piastri. He's heading down to the hairpin.
Hard tyres on the McLaren, so most of the field are on the hards right now, which gives us some idea of comparison, but we'll get a lot more later on in the session, maybe in that last 4 minutes when they all go for something more akin to a qualifying simulation of a medium or a soft. Let's ride on board Visor cam up towards the final chicane with Oscar. Wow, I thought he was down a lot of gears. He was down to 2nd because he missed the braking point, and through he goes.
Opting out of that, wafted very early.
It didn't look that lively, did it?
No.
It looked, I think he must have just felt as soon as he hit the brakes that there's no chance of me stopping this, so don't try and hammer the pedal, don't lock up, don't flat spot the tyres, just sail through and accept that lap is waved goodbye to, but you save it for another one. And you get that feeling as a driver, you think, oh, okay, let's push it. Again, we saw it with Norris early on. It's a corner where you can attack the brakes. Little. It's exactly the same as Norris, actually. It's that outside front, isn't it, that's caught the lock-up.
See it again from our original live angle. You can't really tell the lock-up from that camera angle.
When you're looking at the tyre, you can see it, but from the camera angle there, it's not immediately obvious what's happened. But yeah, so he's felt that through. And you're not getting the deceleration when the tyre is locked like that. You're going straight on, as Hamilton's doing, picture-in-picture as well. That's a tricky braking zone, that one, at turn 8. Bumpy and a fast approach.
Oscar Piastri asked the team to check whether he had touched the grass slightly there. He was surprised by that lock-up into the final chicane.
It just seems like there's a really dusty part up here. So we got Russell now getting up towards the white line, but I don't know if the F2 drivers or the Academy drivers aren't stretching their racing lines as much as the F1 guys, because it just seems like when you go right out and open up the circuit, there's still just bits of dust there for that outside front. It's not the tyre that you usually lock up there, but at the moment they're just finding that actually there's just not the grip level there. It's not been rubbed in as much.
On board with Fernando Alonso. And he's heading to the hairpin. Fans on the left, right and centre for him.
He's 3/10 off top spot here.
Well, this is a driver who has put, in his recent career, he's put an Alpine on the front row here in recent years. He's always thrived at that circuit. Again, the blue LED flashing light at the back as the FIA continued that. The driver's going to feed back about whether they feel that it's worth keeping. It's just a trial for today. We'll revert back to what we've had for the rest of the weekend. Aston Martin driver over the line. Team who turned a page with the vibrations at the last Grand Prix, found a fix in Japan and found themselves with a much more drivable car without the vibration problems that affected the opening rounds of the season. Antonelli's gone into second as a Haas on the racing line ahead of George Russell, who's been chipping away at that lap time.
Yeah, Russell won't enjoy that bit of traffic there out of the final corner. And the
0.02 of a second ahead of Max Verstappen. Miles of a gap compared to 2024 when they were on exactly the same time.
Yeah. Beaten immediately by Piastri.
Oscar's taken it away. He's 0.08 of a second ahead. This onboard Lewis Hamilton going wide.
Yeah, just coaxing it in with a little too much speed. Nothing major going on there, but attacking the entry speed. And if you don't get the car rotated in that first part, you're always going to be washing wide with understeer. And Lewis then just managing to bail out of it, skim the grass, but get back on absolutely fine. Yeah, Russell, you could see the way that Haas car, not sure which one it was there, but it was waiting to do a flying lap. So it wasn't deploying energy. You had the lights going at the back, and George would have known that. So he's taking the toe. He's then getting a bit of dirty air through the final chicane, and then having to avoid the Haas rather than run as close as he can to the wall and minimise the distance. Still managed to go provisionally to the top. I think there's a little bit more in there for Russell. Hamilton fastest first sector in the Ferrari, but in theory this is going to be where Ferrari are going to be struggling a little bit. Russell actually improves on a consecutive lap, so that's encouraging for Mercedes there.
Well, I was staggered by how dusty the track was yesterday during the high-speed test, where they send around the safety car and medical car, check all the systems are working for the broadcast, and it has cleaned up a little bit around a circuit that does have geese on the apex of turn one. Let's go trackside now with Juan Pablo Montoya watching on for us. What's the view like, Juan Pablo?
Hello guys, it is pretty interesting. The grip level is so low, it's crazy how slippery the track is. Like, you see very few people attacking turn one, and everybody really struggling on the exit of turn two. You can see all the black marks. Everybody that really pushes is like, it's crazy. Look at him. Look at the Williams. They're just sliding around, and everybody's fighting to get a little bit extra grip. The Mercedes looks really strong out of all the cars. It's kind of strange because the Mercedes is bouncing around a lot through the middle of the corner, but they can really put the power down. Everybody else looks a little smoother, but everybody's struggling on the corner exit.
Thank you, Juan Pablo. 7-time Grand Prix winner, 2-time Indy 500 winner, and our man at turn two, he's following the rules. He's by the little hole in the fence that the photographers use.
I'm smashing the ground every bump. It feels like we are at 10 ride item. It's awful.
Copy that.
One of the key things that the Haas drivers told us in the little break we had after round three was that the car has started so well on a Friday compared to what they had last year, that they were able to just make tweaks to the overall performance. That does not appear to be the case here in Montreal. Esteban Ocon asking for major changes.
Yeah, so the ride height just running too low. If you want to run the front, you can see actually a nice shot of the rake of the McLaren there with Norris. So you run the front pretty low. The rear used to be sat right down on the ground as well in the ground effect era of the last few years. But now you've got a bit of rake in it, so you get a little bit more airflow underneath the car, and it's a different way to generate downforce now. You can see maybe a slight angle on the floor from the front being right down towards the ground and the rear being up. But you still want to get that front ride height as low as you can for efficiency, and Haas obviously overshooting it. The problem here is it's a sprint weekend, so you have to go quite aggressive to start, otherwise you're never going to be at the optimal setup. On a normal race weekend, you can drop it a couple of mil, you can build up to it as a team, but here you rely a little bit more on your pre-event simulations.
Whoa, big one into the wall. Alex Albon finding the barrier, causing damage to the Williams. Front wing, rear suspension assembly damaged, and the red flag is out for the second time in practice. The driver who returned to the points in the Miami Grand Prix finds his session over, and another driver is on the back foot for the rest of the weekend.
It's a punishing circuit, and the first man to clout the barriers has done it pretty solidly there. Alex Albon parking the car. He's obviously snagged around front and rear as well, so I'm sure he'll be out for sprint qualifying later on, but he'll be on the back foot, not only because Williams are still struggling a little bit, but also because he's going to be well down on miles.
Well, Alex Albon getting out of the car, important to see that he's all right, and it's the exit from 6 and 7, the run down under the bridge.
So it's where Verstappen ran wide on the exit of 7 and just kicked up that dirt very early on in the session. You're accelerating through the right, and you've got plenty of G going on in the car. You get pretty well up to that barrier.
Albon walking away, the medical car dispatched.
There is a lot of damage, quite a lot further down there as well, isn't there? Shards of the Williams kind of on the straight still. Looks further out of the exit than through the corner.
34 minutes to go, so we already extended by 4 minutes. I wonder whether race control will take the opinion that we need to extend by more, just purely, there's not a huge amount of room. It's an amazing weekend for the fans here. This has always been an event with knowledgeable fans, with a great atmosphere. It's been on the calendar since 1978.
So, lads, Canada is, without a shadow of a doubt, it's one of the most fascinating, entertaining races of the year, because this place, now, the one thing that is really, really cool about this place is that I would say 80 to 85% of the time you always get greasy conditions. Now, greasy conditions, in other words, there's even for like 2 minutes, it could be a tidal hurricane wave of rain come down, and then the track is bloody slippy, greasy like hell, crazily wet, puddles everywhere, but the amount of downforce they have, the grip levels, that they reduce the grip very fast. So therefore, eventually, you get to a place where the track is greasy. It's in between, so it's in between the dry and the wet. They're the worst conditions of all, especially when you're on the slicks. 1 millimeter off the racing line, boom, you're in the concrete wall. So it's very tricky. So hopefully we're going to get some rain this weekend, because Canada, it's so bloody slippy. You saw Alex Albon even already getting taken off. So it's going to be a fascinating weekend.
Go out and throw the car around and hope that something comes towards you at this stage. But no one else is learning too much, else we've got a red flag out.
To a pause in proceedings with half of the session remaining.
That really interesting graphic there. Hamilton fastest in the low speed, fastest in the medium speed, 7th quickest, with a chunky deficit on the straights. And that has been the problem for Ferrari all year. The cornering speeds are so good. It's a very good chassis, this. They've really worked wonders on it. We know they've got the rear wing that's been Macarena-ing or whatever else has been going on. Rotisserie rear wing, you described it as in Miami. Innovation all over the car, but the power unit is just fundamentally missing a good bit of grunt. And so Ferrari there, that's where they're going to be missing out, is in that final sector. I'm sure we'll see some purple sectors throughout 1 and 2 with that car performance, but can they unlock a little?
Now, guys, I've been here, done that, worn the t-shirt many, many times, where you crash the car in practice and all of a sudden, depending on how much damage there is, if it's a small... Okay, there's 3 hours to go before the sprint qualifying, so the team are going to be under major pressure to get that car ready for 3.5 hours time, right? If there's an engine or gearbox problem, they're probably out of the sprint qualifying. They're probably done. And they're going to have to get it worked on overnight for tomorrow. But apart from that, Like, if he's got all 4 corners off the car, and it's like wishbones are literally hanging off, tires are hanging off, they're still going to be under mad pressure to get that car, because you can take all the damaged stuff off, you put on the new suspension, the new tires, you got to set up the camber, the caster, the toe in, the toe out. Then you got to get it on the flatbed and make sure that the ride height is okay, the rake of the car, everything's set back up again. Because even though you might have the front wing set at a certain angle and the back wing, they could go all out of whack once you actually, because the car got such a bang, everything's got to be checked again. So it's a fucking nightmare. I'm going to admit it. It's an absolute fucking nightmare. So the team are going to be under huge pressure now. Now, we won't see this on TV or camera, but what a lot of times, depending on how bad they are, if they're really stuck, what you'll find is, as long as Albon's teammate is okay, as in Science, right? If his car is okay, what'll happen is some of the mechanics from Science's car will probably come in and jump in from the other side of the garage and start helping out to get that car on the track. Happens all the time. And you wouldn't blame them, right? All hands on deck, so.
Sam Collins.
Thanks, Alex. There's so many upgrades on the car this weekend. It's incredible for a flyaway, especially at Montreal, which is a weird circuit. But actually, the upgrade I wanted to first talk to you about was actually something Ferrari had on its car last week, but I didn't manage to get us a decent shot off, but I've now got here that I can introduce you to. And it's on the front suspension of the Ferrari. They've changed one of the wishbone legs, a bit like Mercedes did a while ago. And if you look at the screen I've got here, you can see the repositioning of the wishbone leg here. Now, this little panel you can see on the inboard pickup point is interchangeable on the Ferrari, like Mercedes did a few years ago. And if you look back a few races, you can see a different arrangement on the suspension. Unfortunately, this is the best picture I've got on it, but it's actually quite subtle. You can see it coming down here, and where it picks up on that panel is actually slightly different. So Ferrari can change their suspension geometry depending on which circuit they're going to or what the aerodynamic demands, because this is really more of an aerodynamic change than a sort of chassis dynamics change. They can do that from circuit to circuit. Whether they stick with one position or other through the season is something to take a different look at. And now, one other detail I wanted to bring your attention to is around the back end of the Racing Bull. And this is something we haven't seen on one of these F1 cars before. If you notice these little tabs on the trailing edge, 3 little trim tabs, it almost looks like one of those old paper kits that hasn't been properly glued together. And you've got these 3 little flick-ups on the back of the diffuser. Now, I think what's going on here is they're trying to use those to almost stall out the air on the top side of the diffuser, create a little bit of low-pressure area underneath and help draw a bit more airflow out of it. That's my impression of airflow underneath the diffuser coming out of it. And I think that really is a little detail. And there's lots of other little details up and down the pit lane like this. And I could go on for the rest of the session like this, but I don't think I'd be allowed to. So back to you guys in the box.
I was enjoying it, Sam. I'm all for it. Thank you for taking us through the upgrades. Just worth saying as well, because we had the postponed races, it's very unusual to get a whole load of upgrades followed by a whole load of upgrades, but some of these are intended for the races that we couldn't run. And as a result, some teams have decided to back off that. Others have just decided, well, we're going to bring performance-enhancing parts and we're going to run them. And that means that we've had so many technical details for Sam Collins to pour over.
Yeah, Bahrain would have been an obvious one to bring some upgrades to in the early part of the season, with testing there as well, and then a return. But they got delayed to Miami, and some teams then went and brought everything to Miami, and other teams said, you know what, we'll stick to the original plan and we'll go for Montreal, and that's what Mercedes did. As we had another view of the great sightseeing spots of Montreal.
Yeah, it's Oscar Piastri ahead of Hamilton, then it's Russell, Antonelli, Verstappen, Hadjar, Leclerc, Norris, Albon, Sainz, Fernando Alonso ahead of Lindblad, then it's Bortoleto, Lawson, Stroll, Bottas, Ocon, Perez, Behrman, Gasly, Hulkenberg and Colapinto. Lawson's car broke down. Alex Albon is out of the session, and then we've got Colapinto, who trundled back, didn't set a representative lap time. Crowd are in good spirits, and the pit exit remains closed. As we have a look down at the hairpin that's seen so many overtaking moves through the years. It's where Nigel Mansell broke down on the last lap whilst leading. There's been so many dramatic moments at the Canadian Grand Prix through the years. We're having the 45th in World Championship history, a World Championship that started in May 1950, and a great view there of the grandstand. The fans enjoying seeing themselves on the big screen, enjoying the atmosphere. They've got a crucial session coming their way later on with sprint qualifying, relentless session to set the grid, and given the World Championship was decided by 2 points last year, all points absolutely vital. Here's a quote from Ollie Bearman down in the pen yesterday. Feels like he's put a foot forward this season, managed to do some consistent performances. No points in the last 2 events, but strong performances before that. And Bearman trying to get back in that top 8 for the sprint, or top 10 for the Grand Prix. A driver directly affected, his future, we believe, directly affected by Lewis Hamilton's proclamation that he's staying around for a long time.
He's a Ferrari protege, and he's a Ferrari protege doing a great job. So it's natural that's where, if he does well, he'll end up. And Lewis is in his 40s. He's in the final parts of his career, but he's obviously thinking that right now he's not in the final part, singular. So Ollie Bearman certainly will be having half an eye and half an ear on that. But doing a good job so far. This is going to cost a team like Haas, though. They didn't bring any upgrades either to Miami. They bought a whole host of parts here, but this red flag means that no one's able to run. So we had the 4 extra minutes, but no word of any more extension time. And so if you bought your big upgrade package, a la Haas, maybe more importantly, a la Mercedes, running 3rd and 4th, then you want to get all the laps you can to explore what best configuration to run the car to make the most of it. Interestingly, Mercedes, by the way, running 3rd and 4th, but when they were running, they were doing continuous laps. So they weren't dumping all their energy on one lap, which shows I think they've got serious pace. Piastri was doing fast and then a slow lap and then a fast. So he's recharging the battery, getting it back to 100%, and then using it all and ending on 0. Mercedes are almost in like a race mode of energy management, which is worth a considerable amount of time.
Okay, we still have no cars out on the track, but we do have Ruth Buscombe down in the pit lane. What have you got for us, Ruth?
Well, I had a nice chat with Ollie yesterday, and he was very excited about the upgrade package that this car is bringing to this race. They've got 5 new upgrades. I think they're my midfield ones to watch. They've got a completely different inlet design to those side pods. They've got upgrades to the floor. They've got upgrades to the suspension fairings. And all of that comes together. So it's 5 upgrades in total on that car running this week to address some of the issues that they've had. I mean, not very many, but in the medium speed cornering, which has been one of their weaknesses. But it looks like a really nice package. And I cannot undersell how difficult an engineering track this is to have. I can hear the engines firing up, so I'm going to take a couple of steps to the side, as we'll probably get to see Ollie roll out in front of us. It's going to give us a lovely shot of those new side pods. Making sure you get the ride, being able to ride those chicanes, and making sure that you set your car up, get as low to the ground as possible. Each millimetre is about a 10th in qualifying, but if you set it down too low, you run the risk of disqualification or bumping. I think that's about it as the session gets back underway.
Thank you, Ruth. Cars back into the pit lane. Let's get things back underway. And we will get the resumption. 22 minutes currently on the clock. And here come the field then. This is the last time to do any prep before you get to the crucial qualifying, slightly condensed format. Order for you on the left-hand side. Oscar Piastri never on the podium around this circuit. Lewis Hamilton, a multiple winner here, including his maiden victory in 2007. George Russell, there you go. There's the further 15 minutes. Well, I thought that was coming. That is entirely because of the sprint format. So if we had a normal Grand Prix weekend, FP1, FP2, we would find ourselves with the standard out at the end, and the clock always runs down. But that's a sensible approach. You want to give everyone the full hour. You want to give everyone the prep time to get their cars into a competitive racing windows. The fans around the circuit deserve that. You at home deserve that. And you don't want anyone on the back foot, unfortunately, because of the timing. Worth reiterating to you, Franco Colapinto, Liam Lawson and Alexander Albon have all had their session interrupted. A big crash for Alex Albon out of turn 7. And then we have the green light at the end of the pit lane. It was a hydraulic issue for Liam Lawson, and Franco Colapinto did brilliantly to get the car back. All of his know-how to get back to the pits, but unfortunately he has not emerged since. And we get the roar of turbocharged V6 engines out on the circuit. Lando Norris racing a special crash helmet for Jackie Stewart's dementia charity this weekend, and a distinctive one that will be auctioned off afterwards, and very, very good cause, raising awareness for that charity. And Lando Norris, last time out, first time since he was a world champion, standing on the podium. And there is his teammate. Oh, just shows you. I mean, on the racing line, it was dusty at the start of the session. Now, off the racing line, it is a really, really dirty, dusty. I mean, that's Bahrain testing levels of the dust. Lance Stroll down there. Some alterations being made to the turning vanes. Once upon a time, we would call them barge boards, but I tried that earlier in the year, and Sam Collins disagreed with the terminology, and I always listen to my technical expert for us, Sam Collins, reporting from Formula One's Media and Technology Centre. Piastri, Hamilton, Russell, Antonelli, Verstappen, Hadjar, Leclerc, Norris, Albon out of the session after that big crash. Sainz, Alonso, Lindblad, Borgletto, Lawson, Stroll, Bottas, Ocon, Perez, Behrman, Gasly, Hulkenberg, and no time on the board due to the issue for Franco Colapinto. So extended session. We had 4 minutes earlier on to compensate for the red flag. We've got 15 minutes tacked on to the end of this, and that'll be ever useful. Aston Martin in a bit of a holding pattern. There's different approaches being taken across the board, but very similar to Williams. Aston Martin are looking for one big hit to update the car. That is their approach that they are taking. So they're in a bit of a holding pattern for the next few rounds or so, as they wait for those upgrades. Fantastic facility that they've got. They've put a lot of money into transforming the facilities of what was the old Jordan team, and then known by so many different names. They were very, very good at extracting performance for investment in the Force India era. And just getting confirmation that Alex Albon, unfortunately, his crash was caused by hitting a groundhog, and that is why he is out of the session. And obviously, because it's not what we want to see around this old circuit, we're not going to bring you the replay of that, but that is why he has got the damage. So no fault of his own. He's just hit a groundhog.
Wow, a lot of damage, wasn't there? Probably explains the sort of resignation rather than the frustration there for Albon. Nothing you can do as a driver in that case. Probably nothing you can do as a groundhog. These things circulate so quickly that yeah, they'll get a bit of a fright on a Friday morning of a Grand Prix weekend, and so does Alex Albon. But a real shame then for him. That's desperately unlucky. A lot of damage, and again, not getting the miles.
That official word from the team. Alex Albon, one of 3 cars with that issue, and that was suspected immediately, but we waited for the official word from the team before we brought that to you wherever you may be watching this broadcast. Right, so we've added a couple of minutes a couple of times. We have now, let's reset again, 32 minutes to go, and George Russell with the fastest middle sector of the session so far. It's Verstappen, Russell, and Charles Leclerc attacking at the moment. No improvement for Max Verstappen, but he would be so encouraged with that front row in Miami. He's been making more positive noises in recent times. Russell, again, improving. He's got within 100th of Oscar Piastri's time. This is all on the hard tyre, though, so this is just laps for information. Let's go on board with the Ferrari. Not their favourite part of the circuit we're expecting this weekend, Jody.
Yeah, long straights, this corner. So difficult to navigate your way as quickly as possible through that chicane because you've got the wall of champions on the outside. The reason it's difficult is because you've got to ride those curves, but if you take them too hard, too fast, or at the wrong angle, it'll pitch you either understeering or oversteering into that wall on the exit that Hulkenberg was getting pretty close to. And Leclerc's through there, Hulkenberg is through there as well. It's full of difficult corners, this circuit. Juan Pablo standing out the side, turns 1 and 2 there, really tricky. Loads of sequences around this place. Let's watch Fernando, soft tyres on the Aston Martin, hustling through. A little bit of understeer as he picked up the final left-hander, turn 14, and runs to the line. He's enjoying himself, I think, in this session. No upgrades, as you mentioned, for Aston. Frustrating for the drivers. They want to see, obviously, big improvements. They need to see big improvements because they're off the back. But there is logic to what the team are doing. Basically writing off this part of the season and saying there's no point finding a few tenths here or there. We can do, but it wouldn't change the world. Let's wait. Let's use the cost cap allowance, the budget that everyone has, to bring big parts and not sort of waste money bringing parts now that would then just be upgraded themselves when we get towards the summer break. So it does leave Aston Martin, leaves Williams a little bit in limbo as well, just waiting for better opportunities later on.
Well, that final sector so defined by power, and it's Kimi Antonelli with a roasting time in that final sector that gives him the fastest time so far on a 1:14.670. 3 Grand Prix victories in a row to open his account in Formula One, the first time that has ever happened in the history of the championship.
Mighty final sector there as well, so I wonder if Mercedes are now deploying energy a little bit more as Lando goes grass tracking through 3 and 4. We've seen that before, haven't we?
Charles Leclerc went off there and undid his weekend before we even got to the sprint format. It is so easy to go hot into there, and he decided to bail out of it.
The circuit is full of difficult braking zones. You've got turn 1, which is a quick left-hander that pings you straight into that tight right of 2, which is all about traction, as we see another lock-up down at the final corner. I think it was Hadjar going straight through as Russell picks his way through that final turn. Yeah, there's Hadjar rejoining. Russell driving to the line, so he stayed to the right-hand side, and he cuts the beam and goes top 1/10 quicker than his teammate. But all around this place, it's sort of slow speed, medium speed at best, cornering. You need great mechanical grip around here, but you need great stopping power as well, as Hamilton slows it down, and that's not understood in the final corner. Is on the limit of rear grip there for Lewis. He's got a nice slipstream, which might help him, but doesn't really in the final sector. Yeah, it's the key to this circuit is braking and traction. It's straight line performance, really. If you can do that, get the car rotated in the middle, you can lose a little bit of minimum speed, but if you can stop it, if you can get on the gas cleanly, that's where so much of the performance is.
Wonderful shots of Max Verstappen, 4-time world champion, and a man who rattled off 3 Grand Prix victories in a row around this circuit as he goes past the wall of champions. That was coined in 1999 when Jacques Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill all found the wall in the same epic Grand Prix. Let's go trackside once again at this glorious venue with Juan Pablo Montoya as our guide.
Hey guys, again, I'm actually more towards the exit of turn 2, and it's pretty amazing to see how much better the track is improving. Like when we started the session, you could see a lot of dirt and everything, and it's cleaning up, and people still really struggling to put the power down on the exit here. It's really interesting to see how much they struggle right here. Watch them. Every single car, when they go on power, they're like sliding and moving around. It's so much fun to see. Everybody's like pushing, and now that they're in the softer tire on some of the cars, you can really see the difference on traction between the grip level between the soft tire, the medium and the hard tire.
So good to have a 7-time Grand Prix winning driver trackside for us. Appreciate the insight. Juan Pablo Montoya down there. Turns 1 and 2 behind the wheel. Tell us about tackling this circuit, Jolien, because it does seem to just be chicanes and hairpins. What's the reality?
Yeah, chicanes and hairpins. It's
ask a silly question, get a silly answer.
Yeah, no, the reality is what you can see, but it's a lot more complex than that. So I mentioned the braking and the traction, but obviously you've got to navigate your way through the corner as well with a decent minimum speed. So you want to get a sharp front end so you're not waiting with understeer through the mid-corners. And also you want to be abusing the curbs where you can to open up the corner, to allow yourself to run that little bit more minimum speed. But then it's all about your trajectory and how you do it. As we pick up Antonelli, yeah, he was using quite a lot through turn 8. The right-hander got wide in 9 and was still fighting for traction as we jumped on board with him full screen. Nice bit of drama in practice, wasn't it there? Championship leader, full of confidence, attacking and showing exactly what I was talking about with regards to that curb riding and keeping up the speed, as well as getting the traction out. It's not the longest blast on the exit of 9 there before you have the hairpin at turn 10. But it's a short circuit. Looks like it should be straightforward, and that is the fastest final sector, the fastest lap then from Antonelli. But again, there's, I think, probably a little bit more in there. It's a complex circuit. It's so easy to stuff it into the barriers, and you can do it at almost any corner.
I do love when we jump on board and it's a moment tight up against the wall like we saw for our 19-year-old championship leader. 100 points to his name. George Russell was 20 points back. 25 for a win, 8 for winning the sprint. So remaining Alpine in the session is Pierre Gasly. Again, scrubbing wide following the Haas.
Yeah, just in a bit of dirty air there, not getting the deceleration. With Lewis Hamilton right up behind him as well. So again, tricky braking zones. How often do you see that in a race? When you're under pressure, getting those stopping points correct, obviously not giving up time on the entries because they are pretty important, but it's so easy then to just lock up, run wide, and just lose a battle, lose a position by cutting through. It could be in this final chicane as well, because you know if you brake early, there are chances to overtake on this circuit. It's difficult at turn 8, but into the final corner, particularly if you're soft on the brakes, someone can fire one up the inside, and it keeps you honest. It keeps you working really hard in all these braking zones. You get some circuits, some corners where you know you've got someone behind. You know they're not going to pass at this corner. It's just not possible. But yeah, around here there are just so many big braking zones and opportunities for a lunge to get a bit creative, especially into this hairpin as well, as Ocon's going to show us down towards this really tight right-hander. If you want to get a bit inventive, you can fire one down the inside there as well, and it's in that plenty. You then have a long old drag up towards the chicane to duke it out more, and it's why, on top of the braking zones being a little bit bumpy, being tricky, you see plenty of lockups.
You're getting these good snaps on low gear stops. It's really upsetting me. It's like the diff opens.
Okay, stand by.
He's so sensitive to downshifts. And we know Max likes to drive with a pointy car. So he can crank on more, effectively more front aero, more front wing, aero balance, and drive with a car that wants to kind of spin him out in simple terms, wants to be on the limit of oversteer. Now he does that by being super clean and precise with his inputs, with his downshifting, with his steering, with his throttle pedal. And he's got, this is the skill of Max, it's the skill of the best drivers compared to the worst. It's the feel for grip and the ability to not take yourself over the top of it. Let's see what it looks like on board with him.
And for guys on YouTube, just want you to know, so tonight we will be live for the sprint qualifying, 9:30 kickoff, and we'll be doing the same again, telemetry, live coverage. So that's tonight, 9:30, London, Greenwich Mean Time. Cheers.
Today, and there's one for Kimi Antonelli, rejoining, taking the tarmac runoff at the first turn. There's a replay of Lando Norris going deep. So plenty of incidents for our big hitters at the front of the Formula One World Championship. Thanks to the last Grand Prix, Lando Norris into the top 4 of the drivers' standings.
Has he done that? That was earlier on, wasn't it? There's not another occasion for Norris through that.
If he's done it again, it's almost a carbon copy.
Yeah. Behrman with plenty of margin to the wall, exiting turn 4, hasn't done a flying lap, so hasn't done a low fuel flying lap. He's been on high fuel so far, 18 laps for Ollie Behrman, but now looks like Haas have taken the fuel out and just starting to find the limits, but with plenty of margin. Again, looks a little bit more sedate as well into 8, loads of margin on the exit of 9. This is a driver that's just building up now, 2 seconds away from Antonelli, but you can see the difference in those on the limit of adhesion, and a driver that's just building up and getting closer to it, but still with loads of margin. Chance of safety car around here, 83% in pretty much the last decade of races that we've had. Very, very high, and you're seeing why with all these lockups. Barriers greeting drivers as Leclerc just jumps away from the wall of champions in the background. It is so easy just to snag one. And you can race. You can overtake, which means you get cars together, which means you can get teammates together sometimes as well, with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, and a chance of safety car anywhere.
Well, that all started at this corner 1 year ago. Norris with the late braking lunge into the hairpin, and then the McLarens running side by side until Norris clipped the back of his teammate, immediately held his hands up. If there was going to be a flashpoint between teammates in the World Championship, Norris's reaction to that crash that day certainly diffused it.
Well, I think he was wise, because it was quite clearly entirely his fault as well. Just drove into the back of his teammate.
We've been watching long enough to know that drivers don't always hold up their hands when it's their fault.
No, but sometimes you genuinely don't think it is. You think you've got an argument, you're not expecting the driver ahead or alongside you to do what they do, and you look back and you think, oh, actually I can understand their point of view in the cold light of day. And other times you just know, and you're thinking, maybe I wasn't expecting him to come entirely across, but he did, and then that's on me. And it was so quick that he was like, oh no, that's on me, I've made a boo-boo. And he holds his hands up all the time, I think. He's a pretty honest driver, Lando. When he makes mistakes, he says, it's on me, it's not on the team. Held the team accountable last time out in Miami, didn't he? Thought he could have had the race win, and certainly could have done. And I like it. If you hold the team accountable, you have to hold yourself accountable sometimes, and it helped their relationship that he did, certainly.
Yeah, we didn't have the acrimony between teammates that sometimes we've seen in an inter-team battle for the World Championship. Let's hear from Alex Brundle now on what Mercedes are up to.
Yeah, hi gents. As you've correctly isolated, Mercedes have now moved from doing what they call consecutives earlier on in the session to a push-cool-push. So that is doing a quick lap, then cooling the car down, then doing another quick lap. What's really interesting, though, here in Montreal, is those cool laps are not really that much slower, and it's because of the way the circuit layout is here. You've got that massive long straight before you get back down to the line, so if they slow right down, you actually lose so much tyre temperature. It's a relatively low energy circuit as well. We've got the 3 softest compounds of tyre available to Formula 1 here this weekend. So if you do a proper cool down lap, you just don't have any tyre temperature to get going again. So one of the key challenges this weekend, I think, for the teams is going to be maintaining the state of charge into the qualifying laps while also maintaining the tyre temperature. And indeed, George Russell alluded to this a little bit before the weekend, saying that he felt that they'd been focusing so much on the energy management of the car, they'd actually forgotten the normal racing stuff. Well, this is going to be one of the biggest challenges of the year for exactly that.
He's had it on a few occasions, particularly at a safety car, where Russell, I remember in Japan and China as well, where he just didn't have the tyres fired up. Something so basic that drivers, always, your safety car comes out any series, you think, okay, let's start weaving, let's make sure the tyres are right. But instead, they're automatically thinking, let's make sure the battery's right instead. As Hamilton improves, but is still losing a good chunk in that final sector. And it is difficult because there is such a big challenge, and it's all driver input to make sure you've got your energy right. And so it's something that George in particular has struggled with in those safety cars to make sure. The same with the formation laps, and we've seen both Mercedes drivers start with no battery or too much battery. Sometimes they can't spool up the turbo. It's complex. cool-down laps really are not cool-down laps at all, as Brundle says. They're recharge laps, basically, because in these temperatures, the Mercedes, when they were on constant running, were going quicker and quicker. So on the hard tyres, that is, anyway, there was no need to actually cool the tyres. It was more recharge the battery. Soft tyres. Let's see what George Russell can do.
Yeah, I thought George Russell's comments yesterday were fascinating about the fact that they've been dealing with this sea change in the regulations and they haven't got into the fine art of tuning the cars. If you think about how much we would talk about tyres in previous seasons of Formula One, feels like we've barely referenced them apart from the latter moments of the build-up to the Grand Prix and when we get the reveal of the compound on the formation lap. But now that the teams have an understanding of how to deploy, what's the best practice for it, then you are into the final percent of performance. And for George Russell, he has got a teammate who has taken a big leap forward compared to season number one. Everything he learned, and remember those final 5 races of the year, a little bit of a tell. He beat George Russell in 3 of the final 5 races of the year, including Brazil, where Russell had won before, and a superb race in Vegas, where Russell had won before as well. And that was the foundation for what has been a great start to the season. As Russell has the fastest sector time in Sector 1 and Sector 2, you would expect that with the softer compound of tyre. He is trying to beat Antonelli's 14.3.
He was hunting for the throttle out of the hairpin. Was a little deep into 8 and 9 as well. Might have gained on the way in, might have lost on the way out. Overall, as you say, on the soft tyres, I think you just heard him run out of juice right to the end of the lap as well. Difficult to make sure you've got energy right to the end because you're using so much of it into that final chicane, and it's more important there than the bit across the line because it comes at you fairly quickly off the final chicane. But yeah, Russell with a good gain, even if he lost a little bit in that final sector. You just feel the rear grip immediately when you put on the soft tyres. Track rubbering in, it's actually the best window has been so far for them, and then you bolt on the grippiest tyre, and you just feel like the biggest change, you can jump on the gas a lot harder. To make the most of the balance, you need to add a load of front wing, you need to get more front end into the car, means you can use the grip of the new fronts as well. And let's see Kimi's response then to a pretty tidy lap from George.
Great to get the back-to-back comparison between the top 2 drivers in the World Championship. The driver who started as favourite going into the season and the driver who has 3 Grand Prix victories in a row. The breakthrough, the follow-up.
So guys, if you're watching on YouTube, just remember we will be on live stream for the sprint qualifying 9:30 London GMT time. Okay, so that's in just under 3 hours from now. Full coverage of, well, obviously with the telemetry and talk along for the sprint qualifying 9:30 tonight London GMT time. Back
rear surface temperatures up and up. That might cost him in terms of traction, particularly out of this hairpin where you need everything. We heard George go stamping on the throttle. Kimi doing the same. If you've got that little bit better traction, you're going to take the gain all the way down this straight. And it's fairly close. How brave do you go into the final chicane then? For me, it was all about taking a little bit on the brakes, but release the brakes when you've got the fresher tyres. You've got more grip and carry the minimum speed. Whoa, that's a big final sector.
And 0.4 of a second the gap between the teammates and the favourites for this Grand Prix.
I wonder if a little bit of that is energy deployment. That's so much to find in a hairpin and a chicane. It didn't seem like George was way off it in terms of his driving there, but we did hear him derate at the end of the lap. So I wonder if Kimi's saved a bit of energy in the middle part of the lap and then used it again. The hustle was real for him in the first sector, though. He was really, really on it. He's a driver that is just exuding confidence still.
This is Charles Leclerc. So plenty of laps so far this season.
It's the McLaren I want to see, really. I don't know if Ferrari are quite there at the moment because of this, the long straight where you see Leclerc close and then he's falling away. Let's see, as we're visor cam with him, what it looks like for the... so we get a little bit of a derate into the final corner. Oh, he does get close to the wall of champions. I don't know if the shaky visor cam made it look like he was going to hit it there. But there you see a massive loss in the final sector. It's the McLaren that I think is going to be the bigger threat. Piastri's lost heaps in the first sector, though. I hope for McLaren's sake that's a mistake more than anything. Was he wide through the hairpin there?
Would have to be kicking up that level of dust. That's not on the racing line. When you're tight to the wall, that is not ideal. You've got the Flovis on the front of the wing for the McLaren driver. Let's see what he's... Oh, big lock-up, double lock-up, end of lap. Skip over the final chicane and chuck that in.
So for everybody watching on YouTube or TikTok, so at the moment, if you're just listening along, not watching, Antonelli in first, Russell second, Leclerc third, Hamilton fourth, Piastri fifth, Norris sixth, Lindblad seventh, Hülkenberg eighth, Verstappen ninth, and Alonso looking like we've got some progression here. Alonso in 10th.
Too hard on the initial stamp, so maybe a little bit of derating, meaning the downforce wasn't optimal. He also does end up getting out towards the grass, but I think only by the time he's had a lock up in the first instance, which has pitched him out there.
Yeah, already in progress, wasn't it? This is George Russell, again going deep. Antonelli did that a few minutes ago. Russell's done the same into turn one.
Yeah, so the braking struggles continue once you recalibrate and think, right, we're on the softs, let's just push those braking points another 10 meters up the road with the grippier tyre. And Russell, that was on a second flyer for him on the soft tyre. So Leclerc's lap is nearly a second away from Antonelli's. Let's see what Hamilton can do. Top of the speed trap, but I think that must be with a meaty toe that he's had, because the sector times are just not pretty for Ferrari in the power sensitive areas. Leclerc's pretty high on there as well, but the sector times tell the better story, really.
Let's see what Lewis Hamilton can do. Looks lively, making his way out of the first sequence of corners. How close does he get to the exit wall here? No, big margin for Hamilton.
Pretty aggressive on that curb at turn 3. He's bailed out of it, Hamilton. So we get a look at George Russell trying to improve. Improving on that middle sector from Piastri. Again, one final corner. A good target to try and find. He's improving first and second sector. Oh, we go outboard for. I would love to stay on board and see what it looks like. What it looks like is still margin there for George at the final chicane exit.
Comes over the line, 10th and a half back for George Russell. 1:13.544. And he finds himself still with time to find. Soft tyre, Antonelli ahead of Russell. Multiple efforts for both. Charles Leclerc on that soft tyre further back. Here's Lando Norris, half a second adrift with that power-sensitive final sector to go, and a lock up in his pocket as well.
Yeah, so that corner is now proving a problem for the McLarens on their softs. Norris's first effort here, and I think Antonelli's done some sort of monster first sector. It looked like he was pushing, like it was Q3 when he was doing it. He was absolutely on the limit of grip, getting the feel for it straight away on the first attempt. The calibration in his mind for where that was going to be was obviously spot on, and he comes into the pits thinking, I don't think I can do any more with this, and it's left him half a second clear of the McLarens in that first part of the lap, and there's a lot for them to do to bring it back.
Emerson Fittipaldi, champion in 72 and 74, one of the greats, and a enduring personality in motor racing. Great to have him on site at the Canadian Grand Prix. More analysis now from a man who was on track with Max Verstappen last week, Alex Brundle.
We definitely circulated at the same time. I can promise you that. Whether we raced each other is down to very, very serious consideration. But a point on that lock-up from Oscar Piastri, really interesting radio point from McLaren, who've now informed him that he needs to try a manual reactivation. This could be it.
Got pretty reasonable flat spots now.
Oscar, we'd suggest manual deactivation of straight mode. That lock-up was before the front wing had fully reattached.
Yeah, that. Back to you.
Some of your finest work, Alex. Thank you, sir. Max Verstappen goes into 5th place. He's 9/10 of a second adrift. He's on the soft tyre. And we've seen that a couple of times this year with the rear wing.
Yeah, and that's why, as I said, it was on the initial hit where he had such a meaty lockup. So he's got flat spots, absolutely not surprised that he's feeling the vibration there through the wheel, because it was so meaty on both the front and front right and left. We've seen that a few times where the wing is not DRS, it's different. It doesn't shut in an instant, and it doesn't have to now. There's a tolerance for it closing a little bit more slowly. There's different ideas of rear wing activation across the board, and it makes sense. If you brake really hard and you haven't got the rear load, you're going to have a huge lockup.
Oh, George Russell with the spin, taps the barriers, and we've seen plenty of lockups, we've seen plenty of dramatic moments, but a spin off the apex curb of 1 and then just tapping the barrier. No harm done for George Russell.
I think he kind of got away with that, didn't he? It's not a big runoff area, but you're already slowing down through 1, and you're slowing down all the way to the apex of turn 2, which is quite a slow speed corner. Thankfully for George, who's out there trying to match that monstrous first sector from Kimi. So I wonder if he's been told by Marcus Dudley, his race engineer, that that's where Kimi's made the difference so far on everyone, with the fastest first sector of the session. And George just thought, right, okay, let's just push harder. Let's carry more speed, get right over the curbs. There is so much to be found in the driving around this circuit. Is a little bit of risk-taking with it, and I think that's where George has carried the speed over the curbs with braking. You've got so much going on.
Esteban Ocon has lost his front wing. And the assembly of the nose. We had the yellow flag out there. He was going slowly, and the red flag is out because there is the front of a Haas all over the road. The exit there of 5 and 6, and yeah, turn 5 is exactly where it all is, and yeah, that's a meaty connection with the wall.
I mean, that's a long way down the straight as well for Ocon. So he's not deposited Haas through the corner. He's deposited it halfway down towards turn 6. Turn 5 is flat out, so you don't just drop it there. And you thinking what I'm thinking?
Let's
Maybe
find
not.
out.
We're getting a replay. So there's a head start. Oh, wow.
So he drops it off the curb. 3 and 4, heavily over the curb and into the barrier.
Now, that was weird. That wasn't... I don't think that's pure driving error there for Ocon. He had the car straight. It shouldn't snap like that at that part of the corner. It sort of done the cornering, and then it lets go.
We saw plenty of drivers squirming around, getting the power start of the year. Haven't seen it as much in latter rounds, have we?
It's a little bit like Oscar's crash in Melbourne on the way to the grid, where you think he's just sort of through the corner and then he gets on the gas and he has a power spike, a torque spike.
Doesn't need to be much to create a moment like that.
So you've got your rear axle searching for grip as you've got some vibrations off the curb as well. You're just on and off the contact patch of the rear tyre. But I think it looks like he's done the sort of lateral cornering, the hard bit, as he comes out of that turn. And then it surprised me watching the replay that was going to happen, let alone the driver in there. I have to say, it's quite fortunate and fantastic for Ocon that that's the extent of the damage, dropping it at that part of the circuit as well. That could have been a chassis.
Could have been a chassis, could have been a lot of work for the Haas. He managed to hit it basically square. And so it's obviously they'll be checking the barge boards left and right, and the floor. Lewis Hamilton's comments at the bottom of your picture there about wanting to be around for a long time, still focused, still motivated, I still love what I do with all my heart. His response to the rumours that were flying around that he was thinking of retiring at the end of this season, firmly put to bed with his comments in the press conference yesterday. Harvard Lindblad, 8th fastest, 2 seconds away from the benchmark pace, but again, Miami was maybe the only time that Lindblad didn't seem comfortable throughout the weekend. Never seemed to have the mastery of that circuit. He's got off to a great start here. The British driver, our only rookie in the field this year.
And it's a good job that he has, because remember, Liam Lawson not really taking part. So he'll be listening into what Arvid has to say at the end of this one and trying to glean as much information as he can for his side of the garage and a set-up direction before sprint quali later on. But definitely encouraging for Lindblad. Difficult circuit. You have so many nuances of racing line and approach, but he's obviously hit the ground running fairly well on this one. Sainz keen to get out there in the last couple of minutes. He's ran a soft tyre, he's not done a flying lap on it.
It's been an interrupted session, it's been an extended session. We're into the final 2 minutes of it. We had 4 minutes added on earlier on for the red flag of Liam Lawson. We had 15 added on for Alex Albon, who was bemoaning his luck after hitting a groundhog. And Albon still finds himself ahead of his teammate. So all of the learnings have been completed. Top 6 and Bortoletto have run the soft tyre so far, but there's just about time to send everyone out there and get some information. If you've not yet done your quali simulation, this is your last opportunity to do so.
I don't think anyone will get a chance to do one, Will. I think it's about practice starts now at the end of this one. So there's not going to be time to get round and do another flying lap. Of course, it doesn't matter about actually doing a flying lap. It's more about the feeling that you get from behind the wheel. So if there's something that the drivers want to try, they can still do it. It's not about putting a time on the board. It's practice. And you can do that anyway on an outlap, maybe here, try and figure something out and then get that practice started. And we know how important they are this year.
Everyone waiting. A minute to go then. And we're crawling out once more. Lewis Hamilton about to join the fray.
Still not quite completely over Piastri's George Russell-esque helmet as he leaves at the front of the field again. We haven't had our side-by-side of it yet.
It's certainly, there we go. There's George for your reference, heading back out there. There was one race where George tried, at the start of the season, tried a lime green effort when he was Lewis Hamilton's teammate. And very rarely do you think from the commentary box, don't do that. But I'm delighted he changed back. It's nearly impossible to tell them apart.
It was under the lights as well, wasn't it? It was Bahrain, and it was a tricky one. But he's also got one of the iconic helmet colours. You can always tell George with his bright blue until he gets a copy from a McLaren. Luckily, the cars don't look similar, so we're all right on that count.
Everyone heading round. Checkered flag is out. And the story of the weekend has been set about whether Russell can reassert his dominance in the Mercedes team. The dominance that he had last year, certainly in qualifying, was dramatic. But Antonelli is a driver who is very much in Season 2, not Season 1 of his career. And his first sector, absolutely animated, exciting, and rapid. So he finds himself at the top of the pile as everyone completes their admin lap. Then they'll come around and do some practice starts. To Antonelli, Russell, Hamilton, Leclerc, Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Lindblad, Hulkenberg and Alonso. A crash for Alex Albon and issues for Franco Colapinto with the power unit and Liam Lawson with the hydraulics. Mercedes, as expected, upgraded and the team to beat in Formula One after 1 hour of practice. Lewis Hamilton in third at a place where he has won for fun.
Okay, guys, on YouTube, thanks for watching. And if that's what I love about YouTube, because if you're on TikTok or somewhere else, you've got to wait for people to come on and then start engaging with the audience. I know that people can just watch this back straight from the start. So, guys, listen, I hope you enjoy it. If you're watching it live, or if you're going to be watching it later on afterwards. So, we're going to be on tonight for the Canadian Grand Prix. Now, this was practice 1. Tonight at 9:30 London GMT time, we will be live on YouTube again on the Peter Walsh Show for the sprint qualifying. We're going to cover the entire session. So if you're out and about, you're driving, or you can't get access to your TV, well, you can follow along on the for the sprint qualifying at 9:30. Okay, and that's it for now. So at the moment, we've got Antonelli in the lead. Russell in second, Hamilton third, Leclerc fourth, Verstappen in fifth, Norris in sixth, Piastri in seventh, Lindblad in eighth, Hulkenberg in ninth, and Alonso in 10th. So it's not really showing us, I mean, yes, it is showing us the pace of Antonelli and Russell, of course. But Ferrari are on their back bumper. Now, that's the thing about sprint qualifying. It does give you more of an idea than a normal Grand Prix where you've got practice 1, 2, and 3, because they're under pressure now to get the car on the limit now because they've no other choice now. They don't have any other practice session. They're straight into sprint qualifying. So they have to be in qualifying spec as we speak. So this does give us an idea. This does give us an idea of where they're going to be heading. Then again, this is Canada. Canada is known. It's like a disease. This place has so much rain over the years that you just never know what's going to come. You never know. And hopefully for us, get the popcorn out. So guys, love you for watching. Thanks. And we'll be back on at 9:30